So I'm Christina. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, but I moved to Madrid, Spain back in 2012.
Mhm.
And about me, I'm dedicated to the world of data. I work as an analytical consultant at Google here, and as well on the side, I teach at universities. So I'm adjunct faculty at IE Business School, and also I'm a guest lecturer at ISD. They're both international schools here.
Uh-huh.
And I keep myself pretty busy, to be honest, as well. I'm very active in the analytics community. I love everything. I love being involved in the data community.
That's great. That's great to know. So how did your interest grow into analytics? Since you're, yeah,
Yeah,
go
so I
on.
started, it's actually since I was a child. So since I was a child, I loved numbers, and mathematics was my favorite class. I was that weirdo that actually enjoyed math. Um, so I knew that I wanted to work in something tech related, but I didn't know
Mhm.
exactly what. And when I went to study my bachelor's at NC State, and I
Mhm.
started off in civil engineering. I thought engineering would be good for me, and I went for civil engineering, but I quickly realized that I didn't enjoy it. So I started
Uh-huh.
exploring other options, and I ended up going for an interdisciplinary field with a focus in statistics. And
Oh,
as
that's
soon as
great.
I got into statistics, yeah, as soon as I got into statistics, I realized that analytics, statistics was where I wanted to direct my career.
Wow, that's great. It's
Yeah,
good to know that you have, been interested in analytics and numbers since childhood. I mean,
yeah,
many few people like maths in their childhoods, and it's
yeah, yeah.
incredible. So, I know you work at Google as a consultant since so many years now. Your journey, I would be interested to know about your journey and how did you end up in Google? What is your experience so far in Google?
Yeah, so well, before Google, I was working at Nielsen, the American market research company,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working there as a project development and big data engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And right before that, I was working at SAS Institute, as
Wow.
a systems engineer. Yeah, but just for a little bit. I did my
Okay.
graduate internship there.
Mm-hmm.
And right before that, I was studying my master's in big data. So leading up to it, I was already doing a lot of data related things,
Mm-hmm.
and then ended up getting recruited to Google from Nielsen. And I've been at Google now for a little over 2.5 years. And I started actually in like a project based role, and
Uh-huh.
later on got contracted full time. But the whole time I've been working in the Madrid office, and I've always been an analytical consultant type of role.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what it is that we help our clients make the most of their data, and as
Mm-hmm.
well help them implement advanced data projects, automate things, and also help them integrate our data and our insights
Mm-hmm.
into their business systems and their business strategy.
Great. That's good to know. Uh, so you are from North Carolina. How did you end up in Madrid, Spain?
Yeah, that's a long story, but to make a long story short, when I was finishing my bachelor's back in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I wanted to kind of get away, go and move to another country, learn another language,
Mm-hmm.
travel, and originally I was thinking of going to Asia, but
Okay.
ended up, yeah, originally I was looking at Asia, but ended up settling on Spain, and for many different factors, but one selling factor was the language. So I knew that
Mm-hmm.
if I moved to Spain, I didn't speak a word of Spanish, but I knew if I moved here and learned the language, then it would be really useful when I came back to the US. And I originally I moved here to Madrid back in 2012 with the plans of being here for 1 year, and now I've been here for 8 and counting. So one thing led to another, and I ended up doing my master's here and developing my career here. But that wasn't the original plan. It just kind of happened that way. And then, of course, I learned Spanish on the side, so that's a
Wow.
bonus.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, Madrid is a beautiful city, I heard so far.
Have you been? No.
I haven't been there, but I have heard so much about Madrid, and it's a beautiful city, they say.
You have to visit. It's really nice with a lot of historical buildings, a lot of history. So
Uh-huh. Well,
it's
I
nice.
would definitely plan one after this pandemic. Um, so in this pandemic, you are in home. I know that you are working from home for most of the time. How are you managing being productive? How are you utilizing this lockdown time to do things which you want to do and just be productive in all sense?
Yeah, it's a very exceptional time right now. I know most people around the world now are on lockdowns, particularly here in Madrid. We've been weeks on lockdown and I can barely leave my apartment. But to be honest, first of all, I like working from home. I'm a very big like fan of working from home because I think it gives you a lot more balance in your life. You know, you don't
Hmm.
have the commute to work, you don't waste as much time, you know, just chatting with your colleagues, and you can
Right.
really focus and get your work done. So first of all, I enjoy the part of working at home. I just don't enjoy that I can't leave my house at all, but hopefully that gets better soon. But as far as staying productive, I've always been pretty good about being productive and setting my own schedule. So I don't have any issues, you know, with working from home. And as well, Google is a very flexible company. We can adapt to working remote very easily, so we didn't have
Mhm.
that problem. And then it's true that I have a lot more free time. I don't have kids. I'm here with my fiance, but we don't have kids to distract us. So we have a lot more free time now that we can't leave the house.
Mhm.
And I've stayed productive mainly by reading books. I love to read, so reading books, as well as studying. So studying online courses, and I'm doing my online MBA right now, so that keeps me busy, anyways.
Uh-huh.
And as well teaching. So I'm still teaching at the universities that I work for, but now I'm teaching online. So I still keep myself quite busy. I don't notice the lockdown as much as maybe others do.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good to know that you're,
Yeah.
keeping yourself busy and you're still engaging yourself in a lot of activities out there. I know that you work along with Google, you work as an adjunct professor and international speaker at IE Business School, and you teach machine learning, big data to students over there. We would be like interested to know about it.
Yeah, so I've been IE is where I did my master's actually a few years ago. I did
Oh,
my
good.
master's in business analytics and big data. So that's where I got that first connection to the
Hmm.
university. And it's an international business school. It's not, you know, just a Spanish focused one. It's very international.
Right.
And I work there as adjunct faculty, teaching, like you said, analytics, machine learning, etc.
Hmm.
And I teach it in the MBA programs. So
Okay.
my courses are designed more for like diverse backgrounds, for business backgrounds as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I usually give them a solid intro to the data world, teach them about machine learning, and I'm very good about connecting the theory to use cases, you know, how to bring impacts to business, because that's very important in an MBA nowadays.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm super fortunate because as well I get to travel with IE. So I've been I get to travel internationally with them, and actually in the past couple of years they've taken me to really interesting countries. So Russia, Armenia, Georgia,
Wow.
Turkey, Azerbaijan, and Jordan. So
Wow.
I've been to all of these countries with them, and I travel with them and speak at events on
Hmm.
behalf of IE, as well as give master classes. So I do like speaking tours through the country,
Hmm.
and mainly most of the classes are about big data, but as well I try to organize women in tech conferences. We've done a few of those, which I think
Wow.
are really interesting, especially in other countries. And the benefit of it is just getting to interact with so many different cultures, and also getting experience with locals, because I end up meeting a lot of locals at these conferences,
Hmm.
and making a lot of connections with people that when you're traveling like for fun, you wouldn't so much get to know the locals like I do in these business trips.
I totally agree. When you're traveling on your personal vacation, you get to connect hardly with somebody because you're out there for fun. When you go for work, it's a totally different experience. You connect with a lot of people. You connect with the um, environment and the culture, and like actual people out there. So I'm glad that you got a chance to explore these many countries. This is a spontaneous and curious question. You teach big data and machine learning to like business students. How are their reactions when they get to know about machine learning? Because these two are very technical courses.
Yeah,
How do you like navigate through that?
it's a very good question. And usually when I start these courses, I'll notice that a lot of people are quite hesitant. Like
Hmm.
they don't know anything about big data. They have no idea what is machine learning. But on the other hand, you also have, people from engineering and computer science doing
Hmm.
MBAs. So it's a
Hmm.
very diverse class usually. But the people who come from business or marketing or law, things like this, I can see them very hesitant at the beginning of the classes. And the way that I navigate it, first of all, is that I'm a very energetic, very engaging, very interactive speaker. So I try to pass off my energy to them and
Hmm.
show them that I'm passionate about the topic, because usually it will rub off on them.
Right.
And it's very important when I'm speaking about these subjects, I make sure to use a lot of examples, demos, real world use cases, because
Hmm.
that's where they're going to understand. If you just talk about coding, for example, they're going to get lost very fast. But the moment you start connecting it to the real world and showing them demos that can be hands-on for them,
Hmm.
usually by the end of the course, they get really interested in the subject, and they become passionate about it. So
Very good tip for whoever is out there who is listening this video, who is a professor and who have these kind of diversified class. Very good tip. Thank you so much.
you're
Um,
welcome.
Going back to your Google work, do you have any go-to tools out there which you use? Does Google use any dedicated tools for their analysis in-house, if it's okay to share? And also, do you have your favorite tool when you teach classes for these big data and machine learning for students?
Yeah, at Google, I mean, I mainly stick to the Google ecosystem, but they're also very flexible if we want to use other tools. We're allowed to use R or Python,
Hmm.
whatever we want. But I do stick to the Google ecosystem just because it's easier working at
Hmm.
Google to do that.
Hmm.
And first of all, I mainly stick to internal tools. When I'm working with the internal data, just because of security, we have our own systems. But then when I need to surface the data externally,
Right.
I usually use Data Studio for data visualization, and it's free for anybody that has a Gmail account.
Hmm.
And then I'll use Google Sheets a lot when it's just to automate a small report. And then BigQuery for
Hmm.
cloud and handling big data. So I stick a lot to the Google ecosystem. But before I worked at Google, I like at Nielsen, for example, I used SAS, and I
Hmm.
was very used to the SAS ecosystem as well. I'm a big fan of R, so I'm a fan of a lot of different tools. You don't have to use just one.
Right.
And when I'm teaching, usually for data visualization, I'll use Data Studio just because I'm so comfortable with it already, using it at work.
Great.
And demos, doing demos in BigQuery, for example.
Hmm. Great. Personally, I am a fan of Data Studio too. I used it in my college. Now that I have Tableau in my office, we use Tableau, but Data Studio is a very fantastic and user-friendly tool. I loved it. So I know that you have been active in a lot of conferences out there. We would like to hear about some of the conferences. I knew IE 29, Tech IE 2019 and Smart Future World Expo 2019. They were,
Yeah.
you know, trending and hot topics in 2019. So why don't you share something more about that?
Yeah. So the first one, Tech IE, that is an annual event, and it's the largest student-led tech conference in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's organized by IE Business School,
Okay.
by students. And I spoke at the 2019 edition last year. It was here in Madrid, and I gave a workshop on big data and machine
Mm-hmm.
learning. And the conference itself is an all-day conference. It was held on a Sunday so that people could actually come and enjoy the entire day there.
Mm-hmm.
And last year's edition, so it's very much focused on tech and data, and it had a separate focus on the finance, mobility, and the retail industries.
Okay.
And it was a very interesting conference. It's huge, and the students do because it's completely run by students, and they do an amazing job getting a huge crowd and great speakers out there for the event. And the second one, the Smart Future World Expo, this is also an annual event, but it's held in Istanbul, Turkey. And that was one of the events that I got to speak at with IE. They sent me as a keynote speaker to this event. And I gave us a keynote speech on harnessing the power of big data. It's actually on YouTube. So if you search for it, my speech is there. And the event itself, it's focused on innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. And it's huge. It gets thousands and thousands of attendees. So it was actually, it was my largest audience that I've ever spoken in front of. So it was a big accomplishment for me as well.
Wow. Why don't you talk about your hobbies? What do you do in your pastime?
Yeah, okay. Well, the first one I'll tell you about is reading. And anybody who's connected with me on LinkedIn would know this already. But because on LinkedIn, I host, it's called Book a Week Challenge. Well, it's hashtag Book a Week Challenge. And I've been doing that for a little over 2 years. And personally, I read one book a week, and I share it on LinkedIn with everyone and give my review of the book. And I always, use the hashtag Book a Week Challenge. And the purpose of it, though, is it's an effort to encourage others to get offline, so get off their phones, for example, and read a book. Because I realized that a lot of us were wasting a lot of time doing things that maybe we shouldn't spend so much time on, when you could, dedicate 30 minutes or an hour every day to reading, and you could end up reading up to a book a week. So I encourage others to pick up that good habit. And as well, you don't necessarily have to read one book a week. Some people, have tougher schedules. They have kids, for example. It makes it more complicated, but it's a goal that you can strive for. And it's possible to do because I do it, and many others do as well.
Right.
So that's one thing. I love reading books. And then I would say my other big hobby is traveling. But traveling for fun, not just with IE. That's lucky that I get to do that. But I love traveling in general, and it's another one of the reasons I moved to Spain, just to get away and travel around the world. And in the last 8 years, I've done 55 countries actually.
Wow.
So I've made it I've made it a huge goal of mine to travel as much as possible. I've covered 55 countries, and I love learning about other cultures, meeting other people, learning about other languages. So those would be like my biggest hobbies, is reading books and traveling as much as possible.
The last question I would have is, no matter if we are, a student or a working professional, we know that we have to self-assess ourselves, self-motivate ourselves, and make sure that we are, polishing our technical skills, polishing our abilities out there to be successful in any field, and especially in data science. You have to be upgraded with the new tools and technologies. Do you have any resources which you would like to share with our audience, which will help them to, be upgraded in this?
I completely agree, first of all, especially if you're working in tech or data science, or at least close to the industry. It's super important to always be updating your skills, your knowledge, because the field is changing very fast. And this is actually a question that I get a lot in my classes, that at the end of the course, people want to know how they can continue studying. And I always give them a few of the same recommendations. The first one is to read books, like I said before, data-focused books, and I have my own list of them. I always share it with my students, because there's lots of books that are quite interesting. They don't have to be dry, but interesting books on the world of data and tech. Another piece of advice I would say is to attend local conferences or webinars so that you can just hear what other companies are doing or other projects that are going on, new technologies. And a third recommendation is to connect with leaders in the field. So even though you are on social media, maybe we're wasting a lot of time on it, but as well, you can follow leaders in business and tech, etc. And if you stay up to date with their posts, you can be learning at the same time.
Right.
And one of my favorites is Cassie Kozyrkov. She's I don't know if you know her, but she's the chief decision scientist at Google. And she's really active on social networks. She has a blog. She's constantly writing new materials. So it's a person you can learn a lot from. And then the last piece of advice would be just, studying online courses. There's no specific place that I would say to do that, because now there's so many resources online.
Right.
You can find something that really fits your needs exactly, whether it's Coursera or Udacity or getting a cloud certification with Google or AWS. So it's a matter of finding what you really want to study and sitting yourself down and doing courses like that just to update your knowledge.
Right. I totally agree with you. I mean, on social media, you can use your time as the way you want. Thanks for sharing Cassie's profile with us. It was pleasure to get to know you better. Thank you for joining Humans of Data Science today.
Likewise, it was really nice to meet you, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
Have a good night.